The female beggar girl changes the life of the millionaire's son against all odds. You won't believe how a simple housekeeper turned a shattered boy's world upside down. Ethan's mansion, massive, glittering, cold, held echoes of a past too painful to face. His wife gone, his son Liam silent as a stone, trapped inside that luxurious cage with nothing but shadows for company. No laughter, no light. Just that deafening silence that made the walls whisper dark secrets. Then came Mia. Not fancy, not polished, just a girl who smelled like fresh earth and something warm you can't explain. With ragged fingers, worn shoes, and eyes sharp enough to cut through the ghosts haunting the halls. No one saw her coming, not really. But soon her soft voice began to stir the silence like a gentle storm. Liam barely blinked when she arrived. A boy frozen in time, skin pale, gaze hollow, like he'd swallowed too much grief and never let go. Yet Mia talked to him like he was the only world that mattered. Whispered stories, told silly jokes, wiped tears no one else bothered to notice. Slowly, something shifted. The boy who wouldn't speak even a word started watching her. Then, one afternoon, he cracked a smile, the kind that breaks hearts because it's struggling to stay alive. Ethan watched from afar, heart tight enough to shatter. Mia was like a spark in a house that hadn't seen fire in forever. But not everyone was thrilled. Sarah, his late wife's sister, stepped into the shadows, snarling beneath a polite smile. She saw Mia as a snake, a threat. "Who is she really?" Sarah hissed behind closed doors. "What does she want with Liam? With our family?" Suddenly, the quiet world burst. Meetings, demands, cold legal letters twisting through the house like knives. Mia's every move questioned, her kindness doubted. Ethan stood between them, torn, fierce. He saw what no one else dared admit, that Mia gave Liam a chance to live again. Fighting back wasn't just about keeping her. It was about saving his son from forever silence. Public whispers turned to roars. At the hearing, testimonies spilled like poison and balm all at once. Mia's humility clashed with Sarah's cold accusations. Then, just when hope seemed to flicker, bam! Sarah dropped a bombshell. A secret from the past no one saw coming, tearing at the fragile threads holding them together. Suddenly, Ethan's world tilted, trust cracked, and the mansion's walls seemed to close in tighter. And just when you think it can't get darker, Ethan found it, an anonymous note. No name, no mercy, just the sharp sting of words promising to drag all their dirty secrets into the blinding light. The battle wasn't over. It had only just begun. What's hidden beneath the glitter? Who can really be trusted? And will Ethan's fight be strong enough to protect the fragile hope blossoming in the shadows? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ethan stood in a daze, the note crumpled in his hand, heart pounding like thunder. The mansion felt smaller now, the walls pressing in as whispers of betrayal danced around him. He glanced at Liam, who was lost in Mia's laughter, that magical. Then it happened. A sudden crash echoed through the halls. The sound of shattering glass shattered the fragile peace. Ethan's heart raced, eyes darting toward the noise. He pushed through the doorway, just as Sarah burst into the room, her face wild with rage and fear. "You need to see this!" she screamed, waving a tablet in the air, fury radiating from her like a storm cloud. Everyone stopped. Mia's eyes widened in confusion. Liam's smile vanished. "What's wrong?" Ethan demanded, pulling himself closer to the center of the chaos. "Your precious housekeeper isn't who you think she is." Sarah spat, her voice dripping with venom. She thrust the tablet toward Ethan, and the world tilted. On the screen was a photograph of Mia, but it was different. She stood there, dressed in posh attire, her hair perfectly styled, a glamorous smile plastered across her face as she held hands with Ethan's late wife. The date was marked boldly below, just months before the tragedy. The room held its breath. The silence sliced like glass. Everyone was frozen, staring at the image. Disbelief written across their faces. "No." Ethan's voice trembled, disbelief clawing at him. "It can't be." But as each second passed, the air thickened with reality. Sarah's eyes gleamed with satisfaction as she leaned in closer. "She's been lying, Ethan. This isn't just some random girl. She's connected to us, connected to them." Mia's face drained of color, eyes darting back and forth as if she were searching for escape. "That's not true. I can explain." "Explain what?" Sarah interjected, her voice sharp, slicing through Mia's panic. "Explain why you've wormed your way into my family like a parasite. What else are you hiding?" "Mia," Ethan whispered, taking a step forward, desperate to grasp the truth. The pieces of this puzzle, splintering his reality. His heart raced. A mix of panic and anger spiraled within him. "Is this true? Who are you?" Mia's trembling hands brushed against her cheeks, muffling a sob. "I didn't know. You have to believe me." "I came to help Liam. I thought if I made it here made a difference, maybe I could." But her words fell flat, drowned out by the noise in the room. The murmurs, the shock, the hopelessness hung heavy. "Liam!" Ethan called, seeking his son, but the boy had retreated, eyes wide, brimming with confusion. "Dad, what's happening?" His voice was small, lost, terrified. Everything felt like it was breaking apart. Suddenly, the door banged open, and a stranger entered, disheveled, wild-eyed. "Ethan, you need to hear this." He held a stack of papers. "I know who she is, and the truth is worse than you think." The room spiraled into chaos as Ethan's heart sank further. Trust crumbled as the walls wept shadows. Secrets long hidden were clawing their way to the surface, snarling, ready to tear everything apart. Was Mia a savior or a predator? What lay beneath the surface of her warm smile? The answers felt out of reach as Ethan confronted the storm brewing inside him. One thing was certain: the game had changed, and the battle was far from over. The room was a tempest of whispers and stunned faces, the air thick with disbelief. Ethan felt like the walls were closing in, smothering him in shadows. Sarah's triumphant gaze was piercing, triumphant as she relished his unraveling. Mia stood frozen, terror etched across her face, a ghost of the warmth that had brought light to Liam's world. Then came a thunderous banging, jolting everyone. The stranger who burst in had wild hair and a desperate look in his eyes. "Ethan, you need to hear this," he shouted, his voice raw with urgency. "What now?" Ethan shot back, fighting the storm of emotions swirling inside him. "The papers, what I found." The stranger thrust a stack toward him, trembling with anger and fear. It's about Mia." Ethan took the papers, heart hammering. He noticed the headlines. Words like scandal and deception screamed from the pages. But one caught his eye. Mysterious girl wrecks family, the truth behind the mask. His stomach dropped. "No," he muttered, scanning the articles. The words blurred as a wave of dread rolled over him. Each sentence twisted the knife deeper. Mia was tied to more than he imagined. Her past was like a poisonous vine, choking out any remnants of trust. His hands shook, and he glanced back at her. "Mia, what have you done?" "I swear I wanted to help," she pleaded, desperation clawing at the edges of her voice. But the image of the glamorous woman, laughing in those photos, overshadowed her words. It was like seeing a stranger in someone he thought he knew. "No, you've deceived us," Sarah interjected, her voice cutting like a whip. "You act like you care, but you're just another child of that scandal, playing house with us." "No," Ethan shouted, fear and anger colliding. "Stop! This isn't who she is, right?" He looked back at Mia, needing her to say something to cut through this madness, to save him from believing they'd been played. But before she could answer, the stranger spoke again, voice trembling. "There's more. You don't understand. Mia, she's not just linked to Ethan's wife." He paused, breath hitching, and for an endless moment, the air was charged with something electric and terrifying. "She's Ethan's daughter." Silence crashed around them. The world tilted on its axis, every thought spiraling into chaos. Ethan staggered back, eyes widening. The papers slipped from his fingers, fluttering down like fallen leaves. "No, no way," he gasped, his heart racing. "That's impossible." But suddenly, memories began to flood back, whispers of doubts, her striking resemblance. Mia's eyes were wide, a mix of fear and revelation. "I never knew who you were. I just wanted to find my family." Ethan's head spun. "Why didn't you tell me?" He couldn't breathe, hands shaking, heart-wrenching truth crashing over him in waves. The storm of chaos broke once more as everyone in the room gasped, the tension coiling tighter around them. Surprise and betrayal hung heavy in the air. Liam stood in shocked silence, witnessing the unraveling of his world. But just then, another sound broke through, the shattering of glass from another room. A child's laughter, joyful and clear, echoed down the hollow hall. Ethan's heart raced. What did that laughter mean? Was there more to this twisted tale waiting to unfurl? He felt the ground shift beneath him. The only certainty now was this: everything he thought was true was slipping away, each new revelation darkening the shadows further. And yet, a flicker of hope ignited within him, a chance to rebuild, perhaps, amid the lies and pain, a chance to understand what family truly meant. As silence fell, tension crackling, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The room hung heavy with uncertainty, every second stretching like eternity. Ethan's mind raced as he processed the revelation. Mia, his daughter? Unbelievable. Yet, as he glanced back at her, the resemblance struck like lightning. It was there in her eyes, her smile. But how? He took a step back, heart in his throat, battling disbelief and the brewing storm of chaos. "Is this true?" he demanded, his voice as raw as the pain slicing through him. "How could you not tell me? I didn't know." The tears brimming in Mia's eyes glistened like shards of glass. "I grew up not knowing who my father was. I thought I'd never find my family. Before she could finish, the room lurched as another loud crash echoed. The children's laughter broke into panic, and Ethan turned, adrenaline spiking. Suddenly, the front door flew open, slamming against the wall. A frantic figure stumbled in, his face smeared with dirt, breathless and wild. "It's happening! You have to get out!" he gasped, eyes wide with terror. "They're coming!" "Who's coming?" Ethan asked, his heart pounding in his chest. Confusion twisted everyone's features, disbelief hanging in the air like a thick fog. "The truth seekers. They're after Mia. They're going to expose everything." The stranger kept glancing over his shoulder, panic radiating from him like heat. Ethan felt ice in his veins. What do you mean? They found out. Someone leaked her identity. They're not just after her past. They want to destroy this family, everything you care about. His words sliced through the air. The truth seekers? Sarah spat with disdain, her brows knitting in judgment. What do you know about them? More than you think. They're ruthless. They won't stop until they burned everything down. Ethan felt the room close in on him as whispers erupted among the onlookers. Doubts and fears cascading like a waterfall. Mia's face went pale, eyes wide with the kind of fear that clenched at his gut. What are they going to do? She whispered, trembling, taking a step back. But before anyone could respond, the sound of approaching sirens pierced the air, loud and insistent, like an alarm bell warning of impending doom. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The stranger looked more frantic, his eyes darting. They know. We have to go. Now. Ethan felt a wave of urgency crashing over him. Liam, come on! He reached for his son, but Liam was frozen, staring at the chaos, confusion mixing with fear. In that moment, a deafening explosion shook the mansion, scattering debris everywhere. The walls trembled, a dark shadow stirring in the corner of his vision. Dust and particles floated like confetti in a storm, and Ethan instinctively shielded Liam with his body, heart racing. Mia, he shouted, the chaos closing in, but it was too late. The light flickered and dimmed, shadows creeping across their faces. Ethan could hardly breathe, the weight of panic tightening around him. Then, something shattered the darkness. A figure burst through the smoke, crystalline eyes ablaze with fury. It was a woman, tall, fierce, and unmistakably familiar. Mia, she called, voice piercing through the clamor. I've come for you. Ethan's heart dropped. He knew that voice, knew that woman. It was Sarah's sister, the one who had supposedly died in a car accident years ago, the very tragedy that had shattered Ethan's world. His stomach twisted with disbelief. Mom? Mia gasped, stepping back, fear etched on her face. Everything exploded into chaos. The truth unraveled like a tightly wound spool, threading a complex tapestry of deceit and pain. The storm he thought was settling was just beginning. As the door creaked ominously behind them, Ethan realized the true fight had only just begun. Relationships shattered, feelings twisted, betrayal clawed at the edges of every soul in the room. With the shadows swirling once more, Ethan was left wondering, who truly stood by him? And what would they find at the heart of this darkness? The room hung heavy with uncertainty, every second stretching like eternity. Ethan's mind raced as he processed the revelation. Mia, his daughter? Unbelievable. Yet as he glanced back at her, the resemblance struck like lightning. It was there in her eyes, her smile. But how? He took a step back, heart in his throat, battling disbelief and the brewing storm of chaos. Is this true? He demanded, his voice as raw as the pain slicing through him. How could you not tell me? I didn't know. The tears brimming in Mia's eyes glistened like shards of glass. I grew up not knowing who my father was. I thought I'd never find my family. Before she could finish, the room lurched as another loud crash echoed. The children's laughter broke into panic, and Ethan turned, adrenaline spiking. Suddenly, the front door flew open, slamming against the wall. A frantic figure stumbled in, his face smeared with dirt, breathless and wild. It's happening! You have to get out! Ah, he gasped, eyes wide with terror. They're coming! Who's coming? Ethan asked, his heart pounding in his chest. Confusion twisted everyone's features, disbelief hanging in the air like a thick fog. The truth seekers! They're after Mia. They're going to expose everything. The stranger kept glancing over his shoulder, panic radiating from him like heat. Ethan felt ice in his veins. What do you mean? They found out. Someone leaked her identity. They're not just after her past. They want to destroy this family, everything you care about. His words sliced through the air. The truth seekers? Sarah spat with disdain, her brows knitting in judgment. What do you know about them? More than you think. They're ruthless. They won't stop until they've burned everything down. Ethan felt the room close in on him as whispers erupted among the onlookers, doubts and fears cascading like a waterfall. Mia's face went pale, eyes wide with the kind of fear that clenched at his gut. What are they going to do? She whispered, trembling, taking a step back. But before anyone could respond, the sound of approaching sirens pierced the air, loud and insistent, like an alarm bell warning of impending doom. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The stranger looked more frantic, his eyes darting. They know. We have to go, now! Ethan felt a wave of urgency crashing over him. Liam, come on! He reached for his son, but Liam was frozen, staring at the chaos, confusion mixing with fear. In that moment, a deafening explosion shook the mansion, scattering debris everywhere. The walls trembled, a dark shadow stirring in the corner of his vision. Dust and particles floated like confetti in a storm, and Ethan instinctively shielded Liam with his body, heart racing. Mia, he shouted, the chaos closing in. But it was too late. The light flickered and dimmed, shadows creeping across their faces. Ethan could hardly breathe, the weight of panic tightening around him. Then something shattered the darkness. A figure burst through the smoke, crystalline eyes ablaze with fury. It was a woman, tall, fierce, and unmistakably familiar. Mia, she called, voice piercing through the clamor. I've come for you. Ethan's heart dropped. He knew that voice, knew that woman. It was Sarah's sister, the one who had supposedly died in a car accident years ago, the very tragedy that had shattered Ethan's world. His stomach twisted with disbelief. Mom? Mia gasped, stepping back, fear etched on her face. But just as emotions soared and chaos roared around them, the ground began to shake, a deep rumble like a distant storm. Everyone stumbled as furniture teetered, and the lights overhead flickered erratically before plunging them into darkness. Run! Ethan shouted, scrambling to keep Liam close. But before they could escape, a piercing laughter echoed through the now silenced space. A voice that was bone-deep familiar. Did you really think I'd let you have her, Ethan? Ethan's blood turned to ice. Emerging from the shadows was a figure he never thought he'd see again. Rebecca, the woman he'd believed he'd lost forever. Mia belongs with me, she hissed, eyes blazing. You don't understand the game being played. This is much bigger than you. Why are you here? Ethan's shout was raw, desperation spilling over. Because she is the key to everything. Rebecca's smile was twisted, as if relishing their confusion. Ethan felt the walls closing in. Betrayal cut deeper than any knife, and as Rebecca stepped closer, he realized the truth was far more complicated than he'd ever imagined. The sirens outside grew louder, like a storm ready to break loose. The fragments of their lives began to snap together in ways he never wanted to face. Mia's eyes shifted between Rebecca and Ethan, confusion turning to horror. And in that moment, with shadows swirling all around, one truth shattered everything. Mia's existence was not just a coincidence, but the very catalyst for a storm brewing on the horizon. Ethan's world spiraled as he understood the stakes lay bare before him. He might not be able to protect any of them, because the real battle was about to unfold, and the truth was about to hit harder than any storm. Who else was out there, waiting to strike? And what did Mia's future really hold? Ethan's heart thundered in his chest, each beat echoing the chaos swirling around him. Rebecca, standing before him, pulled a thread of horror through the fabric of their reality. He felt displaced, untethered, as if the ground beneath him had crumbled away. Mia? He choked out, searching her face, desperate for answers. Is this true? I didn't know, she faltered, her eyes shimmering with tears, confusion etched deeper into her features. I swear, Dad, I just wanted to find you, that's all. But every word from Rebecca cut sharper than glass. You have no idea what you're dealing with, honey. Being Ethan's daughter makes you a target. The truth seekers, they aren't just out for blood. They want to claim what's theirs. Mia's face blanched, and trembling hands grasped at the edge of the nearest table. What do you mean? Who are they? Suddenly, the air thickened with a dull roar from outside. Sirens wailed louder now, slicing through the tension like a knife. Ethan felt panic cherry-picking at his sanity. He could feel everyone's eyes, the weight of judgment, heavy and suffocating. Listen, Ethan shouted, fingers tremoring against Mia's arms. We need to get out of here. Whatever this is, the past, it doesn't matter now. But before he could grasp her fear, something unexpected happened. The lights flickered, casting erratic shadows around the room. The windows rattled violently, as if the very house sensed the brewing storm. Then came the unthinkable. A deafening crash erupted, as if the universe itself was protesting. The front door burst open. A gust of wind cascading through the hall. Papers flew everywhere, swirling like frenzied leaves in autumn. In the doorway stood a figure, tall and foreboding, dressed in dark clothes, with a speed that seemed surreal. It was him, the head of the truth seekers, a man known only as Orion, unyielding and dangerous. His presence twisted the very air around them, a weight of dread crushing every breath. "Ethan Carter," he boomed, voice a rolling thunder. "You think you can hide her? She is a pawn in a game far beyond your comprehension." "Get away from us!" Ethan roared, stepping protectively in front of Mia. But it was too late. The room cracked open beneath them. "Your daughter holds the key to our legacy," Orion stated, each word dripping with menace. "The truth seekers have been waiting for this moment. She's part of our lineage, and you've kept her from us." Everything felt like it plummeted into a smothering abyss as Ethan's mind raced. He turned slowly, awkwardly. "What are you saying, Mia? She's our daughter. My daughter. I will protect her." Mia shook her head frantically, eyes wide with panic. "It can't be true. What do you want from me?" For just a second, a flash of regret rippled across Orion's steely facade. "This is bigger than you understand. The power this family holds has been buried. You need to choose, Ethan. Her safety or the truth." Just then, Sarah stepped forward from the shadows, her expression darker than ever, eyes glittering with a dangerous resolve. "You don't know everything, Orion. This is about far more than you believe." Ethan's heart raced. What did she mean? The walls felt like they were closing in. He could sense everyone around him shifting uneasily. "Reveal the truth, Sarah. What have you been hiding?" Ethan demanded, breathless. But before she could respond, the piercing sound of breaking glass pierced through the tension. A cell phone screen shattered against the floor, revealing a text message that sent shockwaves rippling through the room. The words displayed boldly, "The hidden danger is closing in. Trust no one." And as the realization sank in, another layer peeled away. The shimmering web of lies wrapped tightly around them began to unravel, revealing darker secrets than anyone had expected. Everything Ethan believed, every connection, began to twist and distort. Orion folded his arms, watching the chaos unfold. "You see, Ethan, trust is a fragile thing. And now, everything depends on whether you will protect your daughter or let the game consume you both." Mia's eyes brimmed with fear, shadows flickering around them, tightening in a chilling embrace. Ethan felt the walls closing in once more. Was anyone safe? Just as he opened his mouth to speak, a deafening explosion rattled the ground. What had started in whispers was now a full-blown tempest. The stakes had never been so high, and amidst the confusion and terror, one question lingered. What would happen next when the dust settled? The room erupted into chaos, each person frozen in shock. Ethan felt his heart race as the reality of the situation sunk deeper. Rebecca stood there, a specter from his past, and in the turmoil, he realized how fragile their world had become. "Mom," Mia whispered, voice trembling, "you've been alive?" Rebecca's eyes dimmed with regret. "I had to protect you, Mia. They would have come for you too." Her voice cracked, but determination steeled her resolve. "But the truth seekers are after you now. I didn't want you to inherit the legacy we fought so hard to escape." Ethan couldn't breathe. Past and present colliding like two angry waves. "What do you mean, a legacy?" He turned towards Sarah, urgency clawing at him. "What's happening?" "Everything." Sarah's voice was a low hiss. "You don't understand what we're up against. The truth seekers want more than Mia. They want control over everything. If they find out what we've been hiding..." Then the lights flickered violently, casting ghostly shadows that churned up panic. It felt as though the very foundations of the mansion were shaking. "Get out!" Ethan shouted, pushing Mia behind him as the wind howled like a living creature. But before any of them could move, a deafening explosion rocked the space, splintering the walls and shattering the remaining glass. A cloud of dust enveloped them, and in that ashen haze stood Orion, eyes blazing with fury. "You think you can escape the inevitable?" Orion breathed, anger simmering just beneath the surface. "This has been building for years." Ethan felt sickness rise in his throat. "What do you want?" he spat. "You only want to destroy us." Then, with teeth gritted, Orion stepped closer, eyes darting toward Mia. "Not just your family. The world itself is at stake." Time felt paralyzed, and then, from the darkened corner of the room, a figure emerged. A small, familiar figure. The woman Ethan thought lost, his sister. "You're all pawns in this game," she said, voice matching the eerie chaos around them. Ethan's heart plummeted, cold dread settling in his stomach. "Claire? You were." "Alive, yes." She crossed her arms, looking between Rebecca and Orion. "And I'm the one who's been pulling the strings all along. You don't get it, Ethan. The truth seekers need Mia, and if they find her, you'll all suffer." Gasps surrounded him, disbelief thickening the air between them. "Claire, why?" Mia whispered, eyes wide, innocence clashing with reality. "Why would you do this?" "Because, Mia," Claire said, voice steady as the pieces clicked into place. "I want to protect you. Becoming part of this family means inheriting the darkness that comes with it, the secrets, the lies. You." Then, just as she was about to continue, a loud crack echoed through the room, a flash of vibrant light, almost like a lightning strike. Everyone froze, and then, without warning, the ceiling began to crumble, tiles raining down. "Run, now!" Ethan yelled, adrenaline surging. He gripped Mia's hand, pulling her away just as dust exploded around them like an angry storm. But before he could think, a shadow blocked their escape. A figure lunged forward, face twisted in fury. It was Orion, and he wasn't alone. A group of masked individuals stormed in behind him. The truth seekers, cold and determined. Ethan's breath caught, and in that moment, everything shifted. Claire smirked, turning to face the newcomers. "It's time to stop pretending. Brothers and sisters, we've waited long enough." Mia's eyes darted between them, realization crashing over her like a wave. "What did you do? You've known all along." Then the wall trembled, cracks spiderwebbing outwards, and the fate of their world teetered precariously on the brink. The doors burst open, and as chaos erupted, Ethan thought he glimpsed something more than danger lurking in the shadows. It felt like betrayal, a deep and stirring pain that wrapped around his heart. And as the world below them rattled in anger, one truth clutched tightly in his gut, a truth that threatened to unravel everything he thought he knew. If they were going to survive, Ethan would have to confront not just the truth-seekers, but the darkness that lay within his own family. And suddenly, above the chaos, everything fell silent for just a moment, leaving Ethan with one haunting question: which family would rise from this storm, and which would be swept away? The room was cloaked in chaos, silence shattered by frenzied whispers and heavy breathing. Ethan felt the tension gripping him, every heartbeat a reminder of what was at stake. He scanned the faces around him: Mia, wide-eyed and terrified; Rebecca, her complex emotions twisting before him; Sarah, simmering with resentment; and Orion, exuding dominance like a storm ready to break. Everything felt off-kilter, as if reality itself had won. But before anyone could respond, the structure of the room trembled again, a deep rumble vibrating through their very bones. Then, without warning, a sharp crack like thunder split the air. The chandelier above them shook, releasing a cascade of glass that rained down like glittering bullets. A collective scream erupted as they all ducked, frustration and fear washing over them. Mia shrieked, "Dad, what's happening?" The terror in her voice was a knife to Ethan's heart. The chaos escalated. Orion moved forward, eyes fierce, adrenaline coursing through him. "They've already found you, Ethan, and they won't stop until they get what they want. We must act." But the moment was upended by a piercing noise, a loud crack, almost like an electric shock. Then came a sudden blinding flash, a light so intense it turned their world white for an instant. Ethan shielded his eyes, pulse racing wildly. As the light faded, the figures around him began to shift and blur, their faces contorting, growing unfamiliar. A voice, deeper and echoing, broke through the murmur. "Enough games, Ethan. You've meddled with forces far beyond your comprehension." Ethan's blood turned cold. This voice, it was unlike any he had ever heard. The shadows morphed as someone, emerged from the darkness, a figure draped in black, their features obscured, but the eyes. Ethan recognized them immediately. It was his long-lost twin brother, Alex. "Alex?" Ethan's voice trembled, disbelief filling the room like a thick fog. "But you were dead?" Alex scoffed, stepping into the flickering light with a grim smile. "Oh no, dear brother. I was always here, pulling strings, waiting for the right moment." Mia gasped, backing away as if struck. "No, this can't be true." Ethan felt a knot form in his stomach. He fought to keep his composure. "Why? Why would you do this?" he demanded, shaking with a mix of anger and confusion. "Because, dear brother, there's so much more at stake than you realize," Alex replied, his voice smooth, sinister. "The truth-seekers don't want just Mia. They want the legacy of our family, and I am the one who will lead them. But you're just collateral damage." A heavy silence descended, wrapping around them like a suffocating embrace. Questions hung in the air, unanswered. What had happened while they were apart? Ethan felt the floor shift beneath him. The world was crashing, relationships fraying, loyalties unraveling. Sarah's expression turned grim. Even Orion stood in stunned silence. "If I can't have you in my world, I will see to it that you're lost in yours," Alex continued, a cruel smile curling on his lips. Mia clung to Ethan's arm, her grip tighter than a vice. "Dad, what does he mean?" Just as Ethan opened his mouth to reassure her, the walls shook once more, and then everything exploded. A force blasted forward, throwing them all against the walls, sending them sprawling. In the chaos, the flickering lights illuminated hidden truths. The identities woven in lies unraveled. Bonds that had felt solid turned to ashes. And amidst the wreckage of emotions and truth, a new question arose. What other secrets had Alex lost in the darkness? And what did his return mean for the fragile family they once believed had hope? Ethan stood, breathless, staring into the abyss that was his brother's gaze. The future had never felt so dark. They had only just begun to unravel the real story. The fight was far from over, and the shadows were deeper than ever. The room erupted again, debris and cries swirling like storm clouds around them. Ethan blinked at Alex, trying to grasp the magnitude of the moment. His brother's declaration hung thick in the air. Mia, stay close to me, Ethan urged, unable to tear his gaze from Alex. We'll figure this out. But as he stepped forward, a trembling whisper broke through the chaos. You think you know everything, don't you, Ethan? It was Rebecca, her voice a chilling melody of betrayal. That's where you're wrong. The ground shook once more, rattling their very bones. Dust cascaded down like a heavy curtain, filling the air with a pungent darkness that coated their tongues and filled their lungs. Ethan's heart raced, a primal fear clenching at his throat, and then it happened. The floor beneath them cracked wide open. The world teetered as a swirling darkness pulled at Ethan's feet. He glanced down, panic rising as a gaping maw of shadows threatened to swallow him whole. No! Everybody hold on! He reached for Liam, tears spilling down his son's cheeks, eyes wide with dread. Mia! He roared, desperate to keep his family together. But in that chaotic moment, he felt something strong, almost alive, gripping him, pulling him beneath. With a deafening roar, the darkness erupted. A blinding flash shot up from the cavern that had formed, sending shockwaves through the room. Everyone faltered, stunned as light flooded their frantic space, illuminating the truth. And then they saw it, an image emerging in the blinding glow, sharper than anything before. The tunnel opened wide, every fear becoming solid, revealing family photographs and letters swirling around like ghosts from the past. Each image pulsed with hidden stories, secrets that had been buried for too long. In the center, projected as if alive, were familiar faces. Ethan's stomach churned. They were all there, his parents, lost in time, shaken by memories long buried. An empty chair, a shattered family, and at the center of it all, Mia, eyes wide, holding the very key to their legacy. Mia, Ethan shouted, hope resting against despair. Don't move. The light quivered, shadows retreating. But that's when the true horror unfolded. A voice echoed, deep and unwavering. You are not who you think you are, Mia. The words hung like fog, a whisper curling around their minds. You're the one who carries the shadows of your family's sins, the last of a lineage that should have died with your mother. No, Mia screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks, trembling under the weight of those words. Her voice broke, cracking open with raw emotion. You're lying! But the faces in the images shifted, morphing into something unrecognizable. And then another face emerged. A woman, eyes burning bright, with a sinister smile that split the space between them. Welcome home, Mia, she said, voice smooth like silk, yet sharp as glass. It's time to embrace your true power. Your destiny is calling, and they can't save you. All at once, Ethan felt the fabric of their lives unravel further. A cruel twist of fate, threads pulling at the seams of his heart. Who was Mia really? What truth had been hidden? As panic surged through the group, Ethan looked around. Sarah's face was pale, breath hitching in her throat. Orion stood rooted, clenching his fists, shadows dancing across his features. And then, before he could fully comprehend what was happening, the glowing tunnel spat a fragment of memory. a delicate piece of paper floating lightly through the air, whispering their names. "Open it," Mia dared, eyes wide with horror and curiosity. Ethan grabbed her hand, clutching it tightly. "Whatever it is, we face it together." But the entire room trembled as the paper drew closer, time slowing down. It felt like a last moment, a breath before the plunge. They were on the brink, poised to discover everything they thought they knew was merely the surface of a much deeper sea. With a swift movement, Ethan reached for the paper, but as he did, the floor split once more, opening wider. He pulled Mia and Liam back as the shadows closed in, darkness swallowing everything. The air crackled with energy, and against all odds, they found themselves standing at the edge of an unknown abyss. Relationships and trust fraying. They had no choice but to confront the truth lurking in the dark. Where would they stand when the dust settled? Could they trust each other? The answers felt painfully out of reach. The room was filled with chaos, sounds of creaking wood and gasps echoing through the air. As the ground beneath them rumbled, Ethan felt the tension tighten in his chest. "Mia, hold on to me," he shouted, gripping her hand tightly as the shadows danced unpredictably around them. "Dad, I'm scared." Mia's voice trembled, eyes wide with terror. The darkness felt alive, swirling and thrumming with energy they couldn't comprehend. Just then, Alex stepped forward, his face a mask of cold determination. "You're all so naive. This isn't just about Mia. It's about power, our family's power, and you can't protect her, Ethan." "What do you want from us?" Ethan managed, voice thick with bewilderment and fear. Suddenly, a flash, a blinding light that pierced through the darkness, illuminating the truth behind Alex's intentions. A whirlwind of memories surrounded them, fragments of lost time swirling through the air like ghosts. "Enough!" Rebecca's voice rang out, a fierce resolve thick in her tone. This isn't the way, but the chaos drowned her out, each moment pulling them deeper into uncertainty. As the air crackled, Mia stepped forward, defiance igniting in her eyes, despite the fear coursing through her. "I won't be a pawn. You don't know who you're playing with." A collective gasp filled the room, and for a split second, hope flickered in the shadows. The light grew, warming the cold edges of dread that had wrapped around everyone's hearts. But then came the thunderous crash, shaking the very foundation. The walls appeared to tremble, and Ethan lunged forward to shield Mia from the falling debris. "Everyone, get to the exits!" "Where is everyone?" Liam cried out, fear etching lines across his young face. With a desperate run, Ethan pulled Mia and Liam behind him, but the shadows lunged toward them. Orion, face fierce and intent, stepped forward, blocking the overhead lights. "This will end now," he declared, the power in his voice like a dam about to break. "Mia!" Ethan shouted over the din, heart racing. "You're stronger than this. Fight!" And in that moment, the air shifted. Mia stepped into the blinding light. "I don't need to fight. I just need to believe." The shadows recoiled as if struck, the darkness unraveling at her words. In disbelief, Alex stumbled back as Rebecca stepped beside Mia, arms raised, channeling warmth from deep within. "Together, we can break this cycle." The room erupted in a whirlwind of emotions, hearts pounding as old wounds began healing, the light wrapping around them like a protective cloak. Waves of energy radiated from Mia, flooding the space, pushing against the looming shadows. "Not like this," Alex howled, eyes widening with fear and anger. But it was too late. The light surged, consuming everything, and the room began to vibrate violently. Ethan could feel hope rising in his chest, filling him with an unexplainable strength. Now, together, as they joined hands, something electric passed between them. The light expanded, flooding the room. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the connection with his family surging, stronger than anything he'd ever known. The shadows screamed, shrieking like banshees lost to the light. And then, silence. When Ethan opened his eyes, the chaos had vanished. The room was calm. Mia stood before him, trembling but resolute, Rebecca and Sarah beside her. Orion and Alex were gone, swallowed by the lingering light. Liam rushed to Ethan, clutching his leg. "Did we win?" "Yes, we did." Ethan knelt, tears filling his eyes, heart swelling with pride for his brave family. "We found each other." But as they embraced, a subtle flicker of darkness lingered in the corners, telling them the battle was far from over. "What now?" Mia asked, voice steady but uncertain. "We prepare," Ethan replied, determination lining his features, "for whatever comes next." And as they stood united, the air buzzed with unspoken promises, and behind them, shadows danced just out of reach. A storm was brewing, and their story was only just beginning. If you want to dive into more thrilling adventures and discover where this family's journey leads next, you must subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. If you loved this chapter, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this ends. Every click counts, and only true fans can make this community grow. Let's